And we will be getting started in 1 minute. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our moderated public forum for the 4 candidates for the position of Phoenix Police Chief. I'm Bielka Miller, the Internal Communications Manager at the City of Phoenix. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us online, on air, and in person. For the convenience of our Spanish-speaking community members, we do have an interpretation team on hand tonight. For more on that, I'd like to introduce Mario Barajas and Elsie Duarte. Mario, would you like to share a few words?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mario Barajas. I'll be serving as the interpreter. I'd like to share a couple of different reminders. I will be the Spanish interpreter. I'm just wondering, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. I'll be serving as today's Spanish interpreter together with my colleague, Elsie Duarte. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mario. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize some of our city leaders in attendance tonight. Please welcome City Manager Jeff Barton, Assistant City Managers Lori Bays and Ingrid Erickson, Deputy City Manager Gina Montes, as well as members of the Phoenix City Council, Vice Mayor Ann O'Brien, Councilwoman Laura Pastor, Councilman Carlos Galindo Elvira, and Councilwoman Keisha Hodge Washington. Also in attendance, we have a number of community leaders, business leaders, labor leaders, and city staff who've partnered with us during this recruitment process. Thank you all for your interest and participation in this important process. Before we dive into the interview portion of tonight's event, let's recap how we got here. Last December, the city retained an executive search firm, the Police Executive Research Forum, or PERF, to help us find the next police chief. The city and PERF initially gathered information during stakeholder listening sessions. Business leaders, neighborhood groups, community leaders, labor groups, and other key stakeholders shared what they believe are the important characteristics of the department's top leader. The nationwide recruitment closed at the end of January. Also in January, the city posted a community survey. With that input in mind, PERF and city staff narrowed the candidate pool to 8 semi-finalists who visited the city and participated in multiple panel interviews with city staff, community members, and members of our labor groups earlier this month. The 4 finalists were selected to move on and were announced publicly. Earlier this week, they met with and made presentations to Mayor Kate Gallego and members of the Phoenix City Council. They participated in another round of panel interviews and met with department heads across the city. It's been a busy week. And that brings us here tonight. This forum is another opportunity for the public to have a voice in the selection process for our new police chief. The finalists will be asked a variety of questions about their background, qualifications, and policing philosophy. Residents have provided feedback on the qualities they seek in their next police chief, along with specific questions for consideration tonight. In fact, we received over 340 questions in advance. Some questions were duplicated, but represented common themes. For example, many questions we received were regarding retention of officers. Human Resources reviewed all questions and selected the most comprehensive questions to present to the candidates tonight. Our goal is to have these finalists answer as many questions as possible throughout the evening. We do not anticipate answering every single submitted question because of time. However, all responses will be shared with the new chief so that the person can see directly what is important to the community. Let me point out, this is not a debate. We are not expecting the candidates to engage in point-counterpoint exchange. This is really a job interview, okay? The candidates have not seen the questions in advance. Each group of questions has a designated amount of time for responses, and we do have a timekeeper on hand to hold us to that. Hopefully you can all see the time right in front of you. Okay, we ask that the audience keep the following in mind. Please make sure your phones are on silent. Please avoid reactions, such as applause, until the end of the forum to allow the candidates as much time as possible to answer questions. Please be respectful and courteous. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on the candidates are not allowed. Anyone violating these rules may lose their opportunity to continue to participate in the meeting. We would like to remind our audience that panelists will not be addressing or answering any questions related to pending cases, litigation, or specific incidents during this session. We do appreciate your understanding and cooperation. And now, let's meet the finalists. As part of your opening statements, please include your top priorities if selected for this position. We'll go in alphabetical order, so as you're seated, you will have 2 minutes for your response. So let's begin with Chief DeCastro.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for being here tonight and the people online. My name is Ed DeCastro. I've spent over 24 years with the Phoenix Police Department, excuse me, to the position that I'm in right now as Assistant Chief over investigations. Prior to starting the police department, I was a bilingual math teacher at Isaac Middle School at 35th Avenue in McDowell, and I learned the importance of community at that venture. Once I decided to become a police officer, I wanted to go back to Maryville because I wanted to help the community. As a first generation American from Brazilian parents, I understand the value of people coming to this country and wanting to make a better life for their families. And so understanding that part of it made me even more value the part of being a police officer in the Maryville community. One of the things that I would like to highlight as police chief is making sure that we retain the current employees that we have, make sure that we get new employees because we're desperately needing of officers, but also build up morale by allowing communication to flow easily from top to bottom. Let everybody know what's happening. And I think that is a major priority right now to get everybody engaged with the process that we need. And focus on crime suppression, make sure that we are allowing our officers to be available for the 911 calls, for those instances where people need help. And I also want to push the idea of training. Training is a big deal to me. I have my education background. I think that it is important. If we train everybody initially up front, we will have less problems on the back end. So we have to try to find a way to incorporate training in a much better way than we have right now. Thank you very much.
Chief Ed DeCastro, thank you. Next, Chief Casey Johnson. Same question, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Casey Johnson. I'm a deputy chief currently with the Oakland Police Department, where I've been for 23 years. Like Chief DeCastro, I want to thank everyone for coming here tonight and providing us the opportunity, making a finalist to potentially be one of your next chief of police. Tonight, I think you're going to hear a lot about us professionally, so I want to take a quick minute to tell you guys a little about me personally and how I got to this seat today. I was raised in a single-family household. My mother, who was a NICU nurse, worked her fingers to the bone to ensure my sisters and I had everything we needed as kids growing up. That's where I first learned work ethic, which I still have with me today. Throughout high school and college, I was able to play sports, and through playing sports, it taught me about discipline. It taught me about teamwork, but also, most importantly, taught me how to get through adversity. And that's some characteristics that are extremely important in this profession. In 2002, I was hired by the Oakland Police Department, becoming the first member of my family to get into law enforcement, which I'm extremely proud of today. My first 12 years in the Oakland Police Department, I did that in our patrol division. I truly believe that the patrol division is the backbone of any police department in the country. After 12 years in the patrol division, I became a sergeant where I oversaw our task force units and our community resource officers. Shortly thereafter, I was promoted to lieutenant, where I oversaw our internal affairs division and also our training division. Soon after that, I was tapped to become an acting captain, in our East Oakland Patrol Division, where I spent 3 years, where I was then promoted to Deputy Chief, and now I'm overseeing all of our patrol divisions and all of our Special Operations Division. If I am selected as your next Chief of Police, my vision for the Phoenix Police Department is truly to become the best versions of ourselves. My top priorities will be crime prevention and community engagement. I truly believe that if you can partner with your community, you can truly drive a department forward in the right direction. Partnership is key, partnership is vital, and that's what one of my priorities would be if I became the next Chief of Police here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. And Chief Michael Sullivan, your opening statement, please.
Absolutely. Good evening. I'm Michael Sullivan. I'm honored to be here tonight. I've been so fortunate to work for a city manager, a mayor, and a council who understand and support the community's public safety needs. For the past 2 years plus, it's been an honor to work alongside the men and women of the Phoenix Police Department as their interim police chief. Our success is only because of their determined dedication. I bring over 30 years of experience across 3 major cities. And throughout my career, I prioritize crime fighting, accountability, and community engagement. I'm the only candidate that you will hear from tonight who has been a police chief. So what you hear from me tonight will be what I have done. Under my leadership, we have implemented crime fighting initiatives like our crime plan, Operation Summer Shield, Operation Full Court Press, that have contributed to year-over-year crime reduction. We've also tackled long-standing issues like the Royal Inn. These efforts have made Phoenix a safer place to live, work, and raise a family. But being an effective police chief is more than just about reducing crime. It's about building trust. That's why I've worked to increase transparency, which includes launching a public-facing Department of Justice incident website and overhauling our use of force policies to ensure accountability. I've also prioritized community outreach by participating in neighborhood events, strengthening relationships with faith and school-based organizations. Managing a department of this size also requires strong administrative leadership. I've kept this department within budget while modernizing our operations, cutting the backlog of untested sexual assault kits by 88% and reducing public records requests by 55%. I don't just bring experience, I bring results. If chosen as your chief, I will continue to push for meaningful reforms, innovative crime-fighting strategies, and stronger community partnerships. Phoenix deserves a leader who not only understands the challenges that are ahead, but has already proven the ability to meet them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Sullivan. And next we have Chief Ed Wessing. Your opening statement, please.
Good evening. Much like my fellow panelists, thank you so much for the community members who are here and have participated in this process online and in person. It's not lost on me the gravity of this selection as the next Phoenix Police Chief. As said, my name is Ed Wessing. I'm an Assistant Chief with the Mesa Police Department, where I've served for 29 and a half years. Prior to that, I came from 6 years of service in the United States Marine Corps. I originally was raised in Utica, New York, and after I finished my service in the military, I ended up here in Arizona, where I was given the opportunity to become a police officer and learn about service to community within the city of Mesa. I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've had, because when I came here, I had very little experience. I had no college, I had no family here, and today I have a family, a wife of 25 years, 3 adult daughters, and the experiences and opportunities that I've been provided lead me here with a sense of gratitude for this opportunity. The question was, what do I think are the top 3 priorities facing Phoenix Police Department? First and foremost, in my opinion, is retention and hiring. Quite frankly, I think we're in a crisis here in the city of Phoenix with the percentage of vacancy rate that we have for sworn positions. It's just over 20%. That has to be something that we deal with and start looking outside of the box. When we talk about retention, how do you retain your current employees from leaving at a higher rate than they have been over the past 4 or 5 years? That's by investing in our employees with leadership development, mentoring programs, and a more robust peer and wellness program. And finally, the last priority that I think will always be high is engaging with the community. We must continue to engage with the community, regardless of how they feel about the Phoenix Police Department or our response in general. We have to establish those relationships, because without the support of the community, we can never be successful at truly fighting crime. I fundamentally believe that all Phoenix residents have a right to feel safe in their communities, safe where they work and where they travel. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Wessing. Congratulations to each one of you for making it to this point in the selection process. Good luck tonight. At this time, we'll get started with the interview portion of tonight's event. For each question, I will alternate the order in which the question is asked. You will have 90 seconds. So you had 2 minutes for your opening statement. For this series of questions, it will be 90 seconds. You will have a timer to help you stay on track. So again, it's right in front of you. And we'll go ahead and begin with Chief Johnson, okay? All right, so Phoenix has serious concerns about crime in specific areas, including human trafficking, drug activity, and violent crime. What specific programs and strategies will you implement to address these issues? Please provide concrete actions, partnerships, and measurable outcomes.
Thank you very much. So Phoenix is much like Oakland, very diverse city, filled with a lot of crime. Some of the outcomes and strategies that we've used to try and reduce the crime in Oakland, here would be similar to Phoenix, is our ceasefire program and partnering with our FBI partners to ensure that we are working collaboratively to address the prostitution that's going on in the city of Oakland. Thank you.
And let me know if you all need me to repeat the question, okay? I know that they're a little lengthy, so I'm happy to do that if at any point you need me to do that. Okay, next we will have Chief Sullivan answer the same question, please.
Thank you for that. You know, that's something that we've done here in the city of Phoenix with the crime plan that has rolled out since I've been here and been updated every year, focusing on those most violent areas, focusing on the most violent people that are out there committing crime, focusing on those prohibited possessors, those people that are carrying firearms that shouldn't, and making sure that we are addressing them to the fullest extent of the law. It's important that we give the men and women the direction to go out there and be able to address crime. It's nuanced. This city is like separate neighborhoods where what happens up in Black Mountain is not what happens necessarily down in South Mountain or Maryvale. They have to be tailored to their unique crime issues that they're facing in each of these areas. And that's the ability that we've given the commanders to do. And we've seen success. We had a 30% decrease in homicides last year. We're close to 15% decrease today, year over year. Those year over year decreases are real, and they're not just numbers, they're lives. And that is due to the hard work and dedication of the women and men of the Phoenix Police Department that go out and do this work every day. They are engaged and continue to go out and address criminal behavior, and I'm proud of the work that they do every single day.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Wessing, same question.
Quite frankly, I think we need to take a more data-driven approach to violent crime in our communities. As a chief of police, you're responsible for the relentless crime-fighting mission that you actually send out to the folks that are doing the work. It's not us doing the work. And if we just put a bunch of officers in locations because we think there's crime, yes, you're going to get arrests. Yes, you're going to get citations and reports that are written, but are you truly addressing the crime? And we need to take a data-driven approach by either using the crime stat model or looking to other major cities. I look at the city of Dallas, who initiated a violent crime project, and it was based on some hotspot policing where data showed where the crime was occurring, the type of crime, and the time of day that it was actually occurring. And you can appropriately deploy your resources and then measure that effect in those communities afterwards. So it wasn't just we send our officers out, it was very specific. It's similar with traffic investigations and reduction of traffic fatalities. If we just send our officers out to do traffic enforcement, yes, they're going to go out and write tickets, but why not use data to support where the collisions are occurring and where it's interrupting our communities and ensure that their focused approach in those areas that it's necessary, and then we can measure their outcome. And if we make a difference in that community, then we can move to the next community that may have similar issues. So quite frankly, to me, I believe that it's measurable because it's a data-driven approach, and that's exactly what I would bring to the City of Phoenix.
Thank you, Chief. Chief DeCastro.
Bianca, can you read the question again for me, please?
Absolutely. Phoenix has serious concerns about crime in specific areas, including human trafficking, drug activity, and violent crime. What specific programs and strategies will you implement to address these issues? Please provide concrete actions, partnerships, and measurable outcomes.
Thank you. So we are doing this right now as the Assistant Chief over Investigations. I happen to see all of these things. One of my purviews is our HEAT, our Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit. They are routinely going out and doing operations on major corridors where prostitution is happening. They're leading with services, and they're being able to try to get some of these pimps off the road. And by doing that, we are leveraging our real-time operations center, which we were able to leverage because of our public safety partnership and some grants that we were able to obtain. And that has really helped narrow down the focus of what we need to look at. They're able to look at cameras, we're able to look at license plate readers, and we are actually catching criminals because of these efforts. We are continuing to move forward with that. That is not changing. Our Drug Enforcement Bureau has several long-term operations that are happening right now. One recently was the Royal Inn that we were able to shut down because of these long-term operations with undercover officers and our federal partners. The other thing is that we work weekly on a crime call where every person talks to each other, investigators and patrol, and we're able to communicate effectively to be able to get the message out to continue on the crime suppression efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next question. In October of 2021, our sworn number was 2,781. Today, the department currently has 2,502 sworn personnel. What is your plan to cover patrol if numbers continue to drop? And we'll begin with Chief Sullivan.
Thank you for that. You know, that is the biggest risk that we have in the city right now is the personnel to go out and do that work. First off, I would say thank heavens for the police assistants and the civilian investigators. We have 173 police assistants and 70 police investigators that are out there doing work that used to be done by police. You know, I think they're a valuable asset. If we continue to see a loss of personnel, you know, I think we need to look at some creative ways to be able to do that. One way we can certainly look to be able to do that is putting specialty back to patrol, which is something that we've already done. We're looking ways to refine that and make sure it's as effective as it can be. I have asked the team, it's been going on for several months now, to take a look and see if it's working as effectively as it can. If not, we definitely should refine it. But if not that, we will have to look at potentially different shift schemes that are out there, staffing models. I don't think we're going to get there. The good news is the next class that is getting ready to be hired by the Phoenix Police Department is the largest we've seen in 5 years. We've seen applications increase significantly in January and February. If we see this trend to keep going on, you know, hopefully we don't get to that part, but our commitment will be to provide services to the citizens and residents of the city of Phoenix.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Wessing.
Yes, as I mentioned in our first question, I do believe that we're in a staffing crisis. And certainly, I think as a department, our primary response is public safety services to the community. And so this is going to be a concern as we move forward. But more importantly, I think we also have to be concerned with the safety of our officers, ensuring that they have the staffing that's required so that they're safe, that they're not burnt out from working too many overtime shifts to maintain the critical staffing levels that are required to respond to those calls. And so Chief Sullivan mentioned some specialties moving back into the patrol area. That's something that we've implemented in my organization, and we started out bringing in individual officers and detectives from all areas of the department, but instead of disbanding units, which sometimes happens in cities when we're in a crisis, we were taking them out for small periods of time. That accomplished two things. One, it helped us with our staffing crisis immediately, but it also helped our specialty units be re-engaged with the patrol mission. Our officers were learning from those senior detectives that hadn't been in patrol for many years. Certainly that can be a part-time, or unfortunately in cases we have to look at areas of service that we would normally provide that maybe we cannot due to the staffing crisis. As we know, it takes a full year from the time we hire an officer to when they're deliverable as a solo officer. So we have to be willing to take some very unique actions to ensure that the community gets the service that they should demand from their department.
Thank you, Chief. Chief DeCastro.
Thank you. As been mentioned, we have the specialty to patrol right now where all investigators and people that are not in patrol right now go out and they do one shift a month to be able to supplement our patrol units. That's still not enough. We are starting specific precinct rebids to be able to shift our manpower to hours that are much more conducive to our call volume, so that we work more efficiently by having our bodies where we need them. That's the easiest take right now. We leverage our reserves that we have. They do a tremendous job of helping out and being able to go out and answer calls for us. As Chief Sullivan mentioned, we may have to get to a point where we have to talk about shift and scheduling models that are more conducive to our job levels. I think the biggest thing that we need to do is we need to keep the people that we have right now. Retention has to be on the forefront, and we do that by building up morale, allowing people to have opportunities and feel comfortable staying in this profession and with this department to lessen that load, because it does take a year for all of these recruits to come out to be able to backfill officers that are leaving. And the last thing is to try to implement the ASU study of call reductions that we wouldn't have to respond to or have police assistants respond to allow patrol officers to answer the 911 calls that are coming in.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Johnson.
Thank you. So much like Phoenix, the city of Oakland is also facing a crisis with not only our financial side of the house, but with our officers. And with finances at an all-time crisis in the city of Oakland right now, it is reducing our staffing. And so we are having to come up with innovative ways, because we're being reduced in our staffing, on how to continue to provide that response that the community deserves. The number one priority for the Oakland Police Department is to respond to 911 calls. When you call 911, someone should show up. So as you start to lose your staffing, we have to look at other ideas such as technology. How can we utilize technology to help with the dwindling numbers of our staff? We're looking at a drone responder program right now where someone can call in our 911 dispatch center, an AI automated answering service will pick up, start to hear what that caller is saying, and then communicate with a drone that will lift up and go immediately to where that call is at, giving our officers real-time eyes on what is going on in that area and how they should be responding. While that call is coming in, it is also immediately sending to the closest officer that's in that area to their computer screen of what's going on, and also giving them a live-time approach. So I think when we look at the dwindling numbers in the department, we have to also leverage technology to ensure that we are doing the best we can to ensure we are providing our public with the responses they deserve.
Thank you, Chief. Next question. The community comments expressed concerns about officer workload, morale, and the high-stress nature of the job. How will you support the mental health and well-being of officers to ensure they can effectively serve the public? And what initiatives would you introduce to increase officer morale? We'll begin with Chief Wessing.
Thank you for that question. That's actually an initiative that I've worked on quite a bit over the last 2 years in my organization. I'm a firm believer if you have a healthy workforce, both sworn and professional staff, then you have better service to the community. And I think we've done well over the last 20 years in responding to crisis, but we haven't really done well in expanding in the arena of overall officer wellness. And that's just not what the typical thing that we think about with wellness. It's really a holistic approach with spiritual, physical, mental, and also financial. And how do we start that at the very beginning of their careers? And so one of the things that I've done is actually got support from not only the city, but my chief to actually bring in personnel to manage this robust overall wellness process. And instead of me at 54 years old making decisions for what's good for this young generational workforce, we brought in an innovation committee of young officers, young professional staff workers, and asked them what works for them, asked them what they needed. And then it's our job to advocate for that type of resources. And one of the things I found is that so many of these resources are already available for the city. We're just not advocating for those. And that's something that I would do to ensure that we're working with city staff as well as our own wellness initiatives to make sure that we have a process where the overall well-being of our officers from the day that they start to the time that they retire. And I can't tell you how this is also applicable to our professional staff. The job of our 911 dispatchers is extremely challenging. They have to be included in this discussion about overall wellness.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next, or same question, Chief DeCastro.
Thank you. I agree. This is a topic that is at the forefront of everything that we do. It does include our dispatchers, officers, professional staff, as well as our crime scene lab people. But we need to be able to build morale first. And I think that we do that by going out there and letting them know that we care about them, letting them know that they are important, that their work is important. We showcase what they do on a regular basis through our website, through our social media, through the media, and showcase what they are doing in a positive way. One of the things, the reasons why people became an officer was because of training and experience that they can get in other venues. I think one of the things that we can do is have a liaison program, which I started with our night detectives and our gang unit, where patrol officers can come in for a month or two, do training on that in that unit. When they're done, they go back to their patrol squad, and it just rotates. The experience that they get from those units, they can still use in their patrol squad. It makes them better. They get to teach. We build a pipeline for future detectives, and it gets them out of the street, and it makes them feel valued, that we are giving them something of value for them to learn. I think if we can start doing that more often with other details, we would build that morale and lessen the workload a little bit for everybody.
Thank you. Chief Johnson, same question.
Thank you. Much as the chiefs has stated tonight, mental health and wellness is the forefront of the Oakland Police Department. Some of the things we've done to ensure that mental health and wellness is at the forefront of the Oakland Police Department is we've created a peer support squad where anytime an officer goes to a critical incident, we have a debrief where we mandate that those individuals who are directly involved of that critical incident attend with a peer support officer, allowing them to get some of the additional help they may need or may not have otherwise went to achieve on their own. I'll tell you a personal story. March 21st, 2009, we lost 4 officers in the city of Oakland. Two of those officers were my SWAT teammates. If I had not had that mental health wellness help from my department, I may not be sitting here today. Mental health is extremely near and dear to my heart, and I want to ensure that we have officers who get the help they need, but also creating anonymous ways for officers to reach out to get that help they need as well. When you look at this profession, everyone is wearing a uniform. Everyone sees themselves in a position of power or in a position of authority, and they may be ashamed to reach out for help. They may be ashamed to ask for help. They may think that because I'm in this profession, I shouldn't be asking for help. Everyone needs help. So being able to create a 1-800 number or an anonymous way that an officer can call in or civilian staff can call in to get the help they need will help to continue our officers stay on that health, will help to continue our officers continue that mental health and wellness.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan, same question.
So I first want to address morale. As we talk about morale, we know that pay is a piece of it, but a very small piece of it. And the city has been very generous to make sure that we are the highest paid department in the state of Arizona. However, your working environment we also know is critically important. The city is investing in the GO bond. We're putting a new precinct in Cactus Park. We're upgrading our facilities in Maryvale, and our new police headquarters is under construction and will be occupied later this year. Those will be state-of-the-art facilities that our people will be working in, that will have quiet rooms, that will have the types of facilities that that professionals should expect. We also know that their immediate supervisor in that work environment makes a big difference to individuals. So making sure that supervisors get the training that they need to motivate and inspire their people to go out and do this incredibly difficult work. We're committed to making sure our folks have the mental health supports they need. It's available to them all the time. We also start off our folks right now that are in the academy with mental performance supports through a program called O2X. It's sports mental performance, so they know how to deal with this stress as they go out into the field. We're looking at ways that we can expand that to the entire department.
Thank you. Next question, and we will begin with Chief DeCastro on this one. How do you demonstrate to future applicants that Phoenix is the department they should work with given all the competition from nearby cities? And once someone comes to Phoenix PD, how do you keep them?
First, I tell them that we're better than everybody else. That's the first thing. I believe that we are the best, and the experiences and the challenges that we have right now, every department has. We've had many of officers that have gone to other departments, and they've come back because they realize that they don't have the resources that we do. We have a multitude of different departments that they can try. As I stated in the last question, the liaison program for right now is one way that they can go out and try different aspects of this job. I think that making sure that we keep people here is the soft things, not the hard things, meaning we have to be able to tell them that they're good, constantly tell them that they are doing a good job, publicly acknowledge their good work. That's what they want to know. They want to know that their bosses and their boss understands the work that they're doing. By doing that, we retain the people that are here. And we tell everybody that by coming here, you're getting top quality training, you're getting top quality leadership, and you're getting people that have been here and are committed to this city. I've been in this city for almost 25 years now, and there's nothing that I regret about it. And all I can say when I talk to somebody is please sign up and join the police department. So join PAHX.com if anybody's listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Johnson?
Thank you. So I think recruiting is something that's very big, and retention that's also very big. You know, we look at having subject matter experts in all these fields, subject matter experts in firearms, subject matter experts in driving. Why don't we have subject matter experts in recruiting? Put together a strong team that represents the amazing job and the amazing department that the Phoenix Police Department is, and go out and recruit. Start young. A lot of times when we go out to these recruiting events, colleges, high schools, every other department is trying to get that same person. So let's work with our community resource officers to get these kids when they're in middle school. Start to let them know that the Phoenix Police Department is an amazing department. Have them look up to the officers that are working with them. Once we're able to recruit those officers, now we have to look at how do we retain these officers. Like Chief DeCastro stated, feeling supported. To show the officers that we actually support them is huge, but not just us internally, bringing them to the community and letting the community know that they also support our officers. It goes hand in hand. You know, an officer may not feel supported if they don't feel like they're doing a good job, or they go out in the community and a community member tells them, hey, you're doing a great job. That speaks volumes. Also, let's incentivize some of these positions to keep officers. There are a lot of different programs out there right now where departments are incentivizing to keep our officers here. Like here in Phoenix, we have the DROP program. But why not incentivize our officers to stay longer? Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan, same question.
Can you read the question again, please?
Absolutely. How do you demonstrate to future applicants that Phoenix is the department they should work with given all the competition from nearby cities? And once someone comes to Phoenix PD, how do you keep them?
You know, I think, and Chief DeCastro spoke to it, we've had over a dozen people the last couple of years that have come back to the city of Phoenix because we're an incredible agency. When you look at what we do here in a major city, we get to do just about everything that you could want to do in the field of law enforcement and police work. That should be enticing to anybody that wants to come here. And if you look at join Phoenix phxpd.com, you will see the incredible work that our recruiting team is doing to pull people in to come and be part of the change that is happening here in the city of Phoenix and be part of the solution. And we're seeing results with that right now. And as they get here, we have to be able to get people in the door so they do have these opportunities. You know, right now we're at a spot that those opportunities are not as available as they should be. So making sure that we get folks in the doors to be able to give them those opportunities to go to the different details and support them as they go to these incredible different jobs that you can do, being a detective, being an air unit member, being part of our SAU team. Those are opportunities that are available in a major city like the city of Phoenix that aren't available to every department.
Thank you. Chief Wessing, same question, please.
Yes, this is definitely a challenge that we're facing in my organization just a few short miles to the east. And what I know and what data shows that your best recruiting efforts are the men and women wearing blue in this uniform. And what we've seen over the past couple of years is that shifted in Phoenix, that some of our recruits are now saying they're being recommended by Phoenix officers to come to my organization, and we have to change that. We have to bring back the pride of wearing the Phoenix uniform and the patch so that they want to encourage their family members and their friends to be at this organization, because it is a great organization, full of great men and women that are doing a challenging task. I said, when we start to recruit individuals, we can't do it the old way. We have to look at new innovative ways to get to the right demographic, and that's that younger, new generation of officers, and they think differently than we do. We can no longer continue to do it the way we've always done it. Once we get them in the door, I recommend that we bring them in several weeks to months before they even start the academy so that we can start ingraining them in the culture of this organization. We can start to provide them academic training, physical fitness, nutrition, wellness, introduce emotional intelligence before they even enter the academy. We lose approximately 30 to 35% of all police recruits from the date they're hired before they complete the academy. So we're even losing out on many of the resources that come through the door, and we have to work to change that. One thing that I think is important is that we need to listen to them. And I would institute what we have as an innovation committee where we have young officers that come in and tell us what's important to them, the work-life family balance that they want to have, and they want to feel valued and heard by their chief and their management team. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. How will you work with social services and mental health professionals to effectively engage with vulnerable populations, including those experiencing homelessness, and address issues like substance abuse while ensuring officers receive comprehensive training in de-escalation, cultural competency, and implicit bias? And we will begin with Chief Johnson.
Thank you. So I truly believe in partnership. I think that if a department can partner with other city stakeholders, we can start to make an impact on some of the crises that we see when it comes to homelessness, mental health and wellness on the streets, and also individuals addicted to narcotics and drugs. When you can go out and partner with an agency or a city stakeholder to ensure that we are leading with services before we are leading with arrest, when you arrest, you can't arrest your way out of individuals who are homelessness. You can't arrest your way out of individuals who are addicted to narcotics. But if you can provide them with services, you can start to erode that repetitive call that's going to come to this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Sullivan, same question.
You know, that's something that I'm incredibly proud of what we're doing here in the city of Phoenix, working with our behavioral health units in the fire department, our CAP units, community assistance program units in the fire department, and our partners at Solari. We diverted over 8,700 calls this past year. That's an incredible amount of work that we've been able to divert and get the right resource to the people who need it. We're talking about incredibly complex social problems that are out there that the police aren't the answer to. So partnering with our homeless solutions our neighborhood services, and making sure that we get the right resource to somebody is critically important as we address these challenging populations. We also have to get our folks the training that they need to be able to deal with these very difficult situations that they don't have the skills necessarily to deal with, and they shouldn't be dealing with them, but giving them the skills to be able to do that. We also need to focus on de-escalation, and we're doing that, and we've brought in the ICAT program, which is a program that teaches us how to deal with people that are in crisis, that are armed with things other than firearms and come to successful solutions. It teaches us critical thinking. It's an evidence-based program. We have brought that in here and are continuing to train our folks on it. And being able to lead with that idea that we are coming in to solve a problem and not immediately go to force is critically important. It's better for our officers and brings better outcomes for the community as well.
Thank you. Chief Wessing?
Yes, that's a good question, and I think a minute and 30 seconds is very difficult for such a tough question, but I think we need to continue to focus on alternative response models, particularly those in the vulnerable communities that we serve. What we're seeing in my organization, and I believe Phoenix PD has also instituted this, is first partnering with the crisis professionals that really are the best person to respond to people in crisis. And it starts by diverting calls in our call center when people come in crisis. If it doesn't require law enforcement response and we can quickly get them into crisis, some type of crisis treatment, then that's the most I think, beneficial model. And then it's also in the street level where we partner clinicians and trained licensed clinicians with our officers that are responding to people in crisis. We understand that sometimes people in a blue uniform and a gun may not be the best approach to dealing with someone that's in crisis. Finally, what I want to say is really talk about cross-collaboration. I said, in dealing with some of these communities, not only is there mental health issues, there's substance abuse issues, long-term chronic homelessness issues, and we as a police department cannot solve this problem on our own. And so the model should be that we partner across all city departments and bring to bear all the resources that the city of Phoenix has to help people that are in these situations, have some compassion, but also don't forget our non-governmental operations, organizations, and nonprofits that can help us with these vulnerable members of our community. As far as the training, we have to continue to seek outside professional training courses. The chief mentioned ICAT, that's put on by PERF. Critical decision-making, we cannot continue to just train the same way. We have to continue to look for national best practices in training related to de-escalation to help us in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro.
Thank you. All the chiefs here have said it in some point, but I think it starts at the dispatch level. We have behavioral health professionals with our dispatchers right now that are able to triage these calls and send them to the appropriate people, not just the police to deal with. So they're getting the appropriate services right from the beginning. If we do get called out, we do work with our Office of Homeland Solutions to be able to try to offer services to those people to try to get them off the street permanently. I was just speaking to somebody recently, and they said that the recidivism rate has been very good for those services. So I think that's a positive. The one thing that hasn't been mentioned is our crisis intervention team, our CIT. They are the units that go out there and actually deal with people that are having mental problems. And I think if we leverage that training, which takes a long time, and require that training of everybody on the department, we start to get people that are going out there and understand how to deal with these types of situations in a much more effective way. I think we start at the academy level and the recruit level, and we have them come back and take the 40-hour CIT training class before they become solo officers, and we start that process right from the beginning of their career. And over time, which it does take a long time, over time, we will have the entire department trained and certified in knowing how to deal with these types of situations.
Thank you. Next question. How will you approach issues of racial profiling and discrimination to ensure fair and unbiased policing, especially in diverse neighborhoods? We'll begin with Chief Sullivan.
First off, if if there is that going on, it has to be zero tolerance. How we deal with somebody should not be based upon their race or how they identify, and have strong policies in place, which we do. The other thing that we have to do is we have to have good data to be able to pull and examine how we were policing different neighborhoods, and are we disproportionately policing differently in different areas, because we want to have outcomes that are positive to the community. So being able to pull that data is something that I'm looking forward to with our new records management system that is coming online in June. I think it will give us more robust data. I know it will give us more robust data than we currently have. It was one of the things that I asked for when I got here, and being able to pull that data is difficult right now. With this new system that is going in place, it will allow us to do a deeper dive, a more regular dive, real-time dive into how we are policing on the street and making sure that we don't have any racial bias in our decision-making.
Thank you. Chief Wessing.
The issue of racial bias in law enforcement is not new today. It's something that law enforcement has been dealing with for years. And let me just make a statement that there's absolutely no room for bias-based policing in the Phoenix Police Department if I'm the chief of police. And there will be accountability if it's shown that there's any bias in the way we go about the important duties that our officers do day to day. I agree with Chief Sullivan is that we do need to have a data response to how we deploy our resources in those particular neighborhoods that have those concerns. And I will tell you, it's been my experience that not only do we deal with it with training on implicit bias, cultural awareness, cultural sensitivity, and it's something that we have to work on routinely. It's not something that's a one-time, thing, a tag, you take it off and we're done. For me, it's my experience that until you get into the communities and listen, that's really what procedural justice is about, is an avenue for people to express their concern with how we respond to their community concerns. Whether they're happy or not, we have to be willing to sit down and listen. We do a good job, I think, of talking at people in community forums. We need to be able to listen. An example of if a community leader feels comfortable with the leadership here at the Phoenix Police Department to call us directly, to talk to us about the issues in his or her community, that's the type of relationships that we have to have in Phoenix. And I'd like to assume that it is here, but this is the type of way that we have dealt with issues of bias, even if it's perceived in our communities in the agency that I work with.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro.
Thank you. I agree with Chief Wessing in the fact that this is a procedural justice component. This is something that we need to get out and speak to the communities about and see what they're experiencing specifically. Just recently, I had the opportunity to participate in an event of the Omega Youth Academy down at our academy for the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and it was a group of sons and fathers that came, and we separated the two so that the youths had an opportunity to express their concerns, and we spoke to the fathers. Understanding and listening to them was a great perspective to be able to see. I am right now, I think data is extremely important, and we need to start collecting this. I think with the new RMS, that will help. But one of the positive ideas that came out of the DOJ report was what we're working on right now, and I'm the chair of the work group for the prohibition of non-biased policing operations order. And so we were just meeting and we're talking about how to get that out. The key to this is being able to make sure that we can train our officers correctly. It's not difficult, but we have to make sure that everybody understands what they need to do when they come into contact with somebody that is different and perceives that they are being treated differently. So one of the things that I would say is for the community to call us and make sure that we have a complaint so that we can investigate it and make sure that we are not doing anything incorrectly, because we absolutely cannot have bias-based policing at all.
Thank you. Chief Johnson.
Thank you. I think a lot of the other chiefs have covered a lot of the important topics, and I agree that there is no room for disparate treatment of our community within policing. You know, when you look at trying to change biases, I think part of this, like I said, a lot has already been discussed, but I think part of it is recruiting a diversified and diverse workforce here at the Phoenix Police Department when you're looking at the police department. If you can really focus on diversifying your police department, it allows those officers at a young age going into the academy who might not look like Ed here to my right or who might not look like Mike Sullivan here to my left. And you get to learn from each other. You get to learn about what your differences are, what your differences are, what my differences are. And when you can learn from each other, right, you're going to be my brother for the rest of my life now because I've grown up in the academy with you. I trust you with my life. And when I can start to understand what your perceptions, what your beliefs, and what your thoughts are, when you get out into the streets, it helps you to understand when you're in those communities of diverse cultures, what those beliefs are, what those religious beliefs are. And so I think it really starts with recruiting a much more diverse police department. Again, I think procedural justice is important. I think database collection is important. I can't really speak on everything else that they've already spoken on because they've touched a lot of highlighted points, but I truly believe that you need to diversify your police department as well.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll begin with Chief Wessing. How would you reassure the Latino community in Phoenix that it's safe to report incidents to Phoenix PD, given the strong focus on immigration enforcement at the federal level?
Thank you for that question. The concerns of the Latino community in Phoenix are very similar to the concerns of the Latino community in the organization that I currently work. And we've actively worked at building relationships all across our Hispanic communities, whether it's the faith-based community, the business community, to listen to their concerns. My personal philosophy is that municipal police work is not and has not have a role in enforcing immigration law. Let me make that clear. Our concern is public safety. We want to make sure that victims of crime are able to report that crime and feel comfortable with being witnesses to crime. Some would say if the crime wasn't reported, then it didn't happen. I don't believe in that theory. I think it's critically important that we continue to engage daily with the folks and our citizens, both business and residents in our Latino communities, based on what's happening nationally. We have to have open dialogue with them. Recently, we brought in the Mexican Consular General to help us, and we sat side by side with him in our Latino community meetings and expressed, here are your rights, and here is what your police department will do. Because regardless of your status, you have a right to have a response to 911, and you have the right to have the officers that are coming there and focus on the actual crime that occurred and bring justice to those individuals. That's how I would accomplish that here in Phoenix.
Thank you, Chief. Chief DeCastro.
So I've been dealing with this issue since I started with this job as one of the only Spanish speakers on my squad from day one. Being able to go into the community and speak to them in their language makes a huge difference. I've worked with Jose Guzman, who is the founder of an organization of parents who have had their loved ones killed. And literally for 20 years, I've gone to meetings and expressed to families what it is that we can do to try to bridge the gap of what's happening. Just recently, I went to a meeting for the Hispanic Advisory Board, and a group of Hispanic pastors to talk about the immigration policy, again, in Spanish, to be able to get the message across. Our viewpoint is still the same as it was when we had the 1070. We will not ask you your immigration status. We care about the crime. We want to enforce the law, not your immigration status. We cannot have pockets of communities that are vulnerable to criminals, and so your status does not matter. We want you to call police. We want you to trust the police, and by getting out there speaking to them and letting them know that they are not the target, the criminal is the target, and continually doing that, we will build that trust so that they do call.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Johnson.
Thank you. I think that when you look at your communities and in the Hispanic community feeling afraid because of potential immigration or potential status, you really have to go out into that community and start to build that trust. Right now, I oversee one of the patrol areas is in our Fruitvale area, which is a heavily Hispanic population. Going out and showing up, not just once, you show up once and people don't truly believe you, but you start to show up time and time again. You go to those community meetings, you work with those community groups, and you start to let them know that we are here for not just this community, but all the communities. You want to let them know that we don't want individuals who are here committing crime. If you are committing crime, regardless of your status, we're going to hold you accountable. But if you are a victim of a crime, we want to ensure that we are providing you the same service that we provide everyone else. So we want to ensure by partnering with those community groups, by showing up in the community to make them feel more comfortable with law enforcement and with our officers, continuously showing up and letting them know that they have that we are there to respond to help them as well.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan.
What I can tell you is that the fear in the community is palpable. I've felt it since November as I've been out in the community meeting with different groups and organizations, and it truly has been an effort to reassure them. Thank heavens we at the City of Phoenix and the Phoenix Police Department have great relationships within the community that have been built up, reassuring them that just because there was an election, nothing changed. It is not our duty to enforce criminal immigration or civil immigration situations. We need to focus on criminal situations. And we talked about our shortages. We do not need to do a federal responsibility, and especially do a federal responsibility when we are 600 officers short. That is something that we don't need to be engaged in, and we won't be engaged in. And making community feel more comfortable, just reassuring them that we are going to be there is something that we have been doing before this election, and we will be doing after. Our policies meet all federal and state laws, and we will continue to follow them. Nothing has changed just because there's been a change of administration in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. In June of 2024, the DOJ submitted a report with 37 recommendations. Do you believe additional reform is needed within Phoenix PD? If so, in which areas, and how would you facilitate said reform? Chief DeCastro.
I think when we received the DOJ report, everybody was very frustrated because we didn't believe that there was anything that we were doing wrong. We created a website to show some of the issues that we had with the report. However, those recommendations, there were items in there that we could improve on. We should be improving. We need to evolve, and I think that was one of the issues that we had in telling everybody. We need to change to evolve, not change because we were bad. But one of the things that I think that we are doing now is we are implementing a lot of these scorecards, the systems of accountability that we are creating right now to be able to capture the data of who are we stopping, why are we stopping them. Those types of things are important, and we're working on getting to that level. It's just going to take some time. I think working with the Office of Homeless Solutions to be able to better understand and better treat our homeless population and give them services as opposed to just arresting them. We can't arrest our way out of this problem. So finding solutions for those. One of the things that I think is a big challenge is what do we do with property? And we're working on that again, a systems of accountability component that we are working towards. So the ideas that came out of it are making us better, and I think that we will be a better police department because of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Johnson?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course. In June 2024, the DOJ submitted a report with 37 recommendations. Do you believe additional reform is needed within Phoenix PD? If so, in which areas, and how would you facilitate said reform?
Thank you. So coming from the Oakland, California Police Department, I've been under reform my entire career. I've been under oversight my entire career. I can tell you that oversight has both positive and negative effects. Oversight does force you to change policies. it does force you to shift direction. When you look at change, people are scared of change because of the unknown, but oversight forces you to make that change. When we talk about the negative side of oversight, oversight is long. It can be taxing on a police department. It can crush morale. I'll give you an example. In the Oakland Police Department, our negotiated settlement group says that we shall accept every complaint that comes into the police department. We have about a 700-person department right now, and we receive over 2,000 complaints a year because we have to accept every complaint that comes in. Now, when you look at 2,000 complaints a year, that goes down to our sergeants, lieutenants, and officers. Our sergeants now have additional work because they have to investigate those complaints. With technology, we have body cameras. Like, body cameras are a great tool. But when you're talking about investigating a potential complaint, if there's 5 officers on scene and that scene lasted 5 hours, now our sergeant has to review 5 hours of video for every officer that was on scene to ensure that they're making sure that there was no policy violations that occurred. So when you look at the pros and cons of oversight, there are many. And thank you.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan?
have been very clear. Regardless of what was the outcome of this DOJ investigation, we were focused on continuous improvement. I've talked about us being a self-assessing, self-correcting agency. And speaking to that, we have initiated over 30 enterprise-wide projects to increase accountability, performance, and community engagement. We've done it in use of force. We've done it in discriminatory policing, protecting someone's First Amendment rights, in mental health, in homelessness, and in training in those areas that we spoke about earlier with ICAT training and ABLE training, which is active bystandership by law enforcement, making sure that they can intervene in those situations. We have to continually improve. That's what the community expects of us. That's what the community should expect of us. And that's how we get better every single day, is taking a look at what we're doing, how we can improve it, and move forward. And I believe, and I've always believed, that we can do this outside of federal oversight. We can do this with working with our local partners and working with our council and working with our community members to find the change that the citizens and residents of Phoenix want to see.
Thank you. Chief Wessing.
Thank you. I think from my perspective, because I don't have the intimate knowledge that both Chief Castro and Chief Sullivan have on the details and the content of the DOJ investigation. I know what's been released publicly, like everybody else in this room, but it's very clear in law enforcement, whether it's in Phoenix or even here in the Phoenix regional area, that there is room for reform. And I do believe Phoenix is in a position to lead nationally in efforts to reform the daily operations of public safety. I do understand that it's been very challenging for the community, but it's also been very challenging for the men and women who do the work that we ask them to do. I can give you an example of how we would lead reform in my organization. It's a project called the Use of Force Review and Implementation Project, where we took all of the recommendations that came out of the 21st Century Policing Project. And we brought in the community and we looked at each one of them. There wasn't one of them that we said we wouldn't take a look at and find ways to improve. And we implemented the majority of those reforms, and we're in a better place today because of it. And I think there's a lot of good work that has already happened in the city of Phoenix. I've been made aware of a lot of the initiatives that have already been in place. Chief Sullivan just talked about that. I think there's amazing work that's happening. And if I'm selected as the next chief of police, that work needs to continue to be driven forward. And that's going to be my approach if I am selected as the next chief of police.
Thank you. Next question. Apologies. Okay, so next question. In February, the department implemented a new use of force policy. What are your thoughts on the policy, and do you feel any additional changes are needed? And we'll begin with Chief Johnson, please.
Thank you. So I've had a chance to look at the new use of force policy. When you look at the use of force policy in Oakland, we've had that same policy, but it's even more restricted because of our oversight. when you're talking about proportional and necessary force, I think what happens is officers don't understand the language and don't understand the policy itself. So to ensure that we train our officers on how to understand the policy, I think officers will be more effective when using force. When you change a policy, again, we talk about change. Officers don't like change because they don't understand it. So you have to communicate why the policy was changed, go down to our lineups, answer the tough questions, and explain to the officers why the policy changed, but ensure that they are understanding of the policy. And then putting them through reality-based training, through virtual training, where they can go through those virtual situations and look at how they are going to use that force, and if it's out of policy, in policy, and we can train them before they get out in the streets so they understand the policy and they are using the force in the proper way.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Sullivan?
Thank you. This was one of the first things that I looked at when I arrived here at the City of Phoenix was our use of force policy, and determined that we wanted to update it to make sure that we had the best use of force policy in the nation. When I announced that, I got resistance internally from wanting to do that. So because of that, I wanted to make sure that we brought together the people from the department, because this wasn't a policy from someplace else. This was going to be Phoenix's policy. They came together in a work group and put together what they came to me and said, we believe this is a world-class policy that people will come to Phoenix to look at. We then put together a training program that made sure that we brought every member of the department in and gave them 20 hours of training. And we thought that was critically important. And as we developed the policy, I think it's also important to point out the community members got a chance to provide feedback to this policy. We had over 800 comments from the community, from internal stakeholders that helped design this policy. And as we've implemented it going forward, I have confidence that this policy will make officers safer. It will provide better outcomes for community members. And at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do.
Thank you. Chief Wessing?
Yes. Here's one thing I know about policy is that it should be a living, breathing document that's subject to continual review and change. I do applaud the work of the Phoenix Police Department in coming to their new use of force policy. My organization undertook a very similar program not that long ago when we updated all of our use of force policies, including our less lethal, non-lethal policies as well. And I think what's important, I don't have that data, is that we don't just do this in a bubble. Chief Sullivan mentioned the work groups, including community input, that I think is critical to coming to the policy that you have today. I said, but you also need to seek out the input of the major city chief associations, cities across the country who have best practices. You look to the organizations like PERF, who can provide insight into best practices for use of force policies. I think a critical component of all use of force policies is also the reporting mechanism, as far as the how we report the use of force that our officers are actually doing in the performance of their duty. And I said, and finally, I think with this policy, training is going to be a key component. The chief mentioned the hours of training that's required. It must be followed up with a scenario-based training so our officers have a thorough understanding of what the policy expectations are and how they can be successful, because quite frankly, at times our officers are facing very challenging, dangerous encounters with individuals as they go about their business. So we need to make sure that they have a good grasp of how they can apply the current policy.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro?
Yeah, thank you. So when the policy came out, it was something that we trained on for a year, which was a great thing, and we needed to be trained on it. One of the frustrations that came out of it was there was some last-minute changes, and everybody became confused, and I think we had a misstep of not being able to train them correctly. I think we've learned from that, and I think we have gotten better at that. But everybody it seems timid about what to do. As Chief Johnson had said, the reasonable, necessary, and proportional are subjective. We need to be able to go out there and train more to explain what that is so that our officers are not second guessing themselves in a split-second situation, in a deadly situation. By doing that consistently over and over, I think it's one of the topics that we can try to get the officers much more comfortable with and make them much more safe. We have gone out and tried to eliminate some of the speculation of what the policy says, and I think we have squashed some of the most of the concerns that the officers have. But it's still going to take time to be able to go through and see what it is. And as Chief Westing said, this is a living document. If things do not work the way that they're supposed to, or we believe they are, then we go back and we try to amend them as best that we can. But it is something that that we needed, and I think it's a positive thing.
Thank you. Next question. How will you navigate the role of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association in implementing accountability measures? And we'll start with Chief Sullivan.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
How will you navigate the role of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association in implementing accountability measures?
You know, you have to involve labor in these discussions, especially if it involves working conditions. You know, and I think that's something that we have to sit down and have discussions. It's something that I have done the last 2.5 years that I've been here. Being able to have those discussions, I think, are critically important to taking away some of the concerns that people have when we talk about this, and understanding what the impacts could be in those discussions, and potentially refining, you know, what those accountability measures are and how they are put in place. That's one of the reasons that the Law Enforcement Association is part of our Systems of Accountability project that is ongoing to improve all of our accountability systems. Labor needs to have a voice in this. We need to protect officers' due process rights and make sure that how we're holding ourselves accountable is really going to the end of making the best quality policing we can for the residents of the city of Phoenix, because that's the end goal. The end goal when we talk about accountability is making sure that we get better and we provide the services that are out there. And continuing to have the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association as part of those groups is something that I have done and is something I'm committed to do in the future.
Thank you. Chief Westing?
Like Chief Sullivan said, I think it's clear that in law enforcement, our labor associations need to have a voice. And their members have to have a seat at the table, even amongst very difficult conversations. We do that here in my organization. And I can tell you that, quite frankly, if you don't establish that relationship, when you get to the moment of crisis, you're going to have some challenges that we might not be able to overcome. I said clearly there are going to be times that we don't come in an agreement, and a decision is going to have to be made at the head of the organization with input from city management that might not be in alignment with what labor organizations feel is best. But I'd like to think that most of us want the same thing in most occasions, and that's what's best for the men and women in this department, and also what's best for the citizens in the community that we serve. As far as implementing accountability measures, certainly we all have policies on our officer misconduct. There's the Officers' Bill of Rights, and I do believe in my core that their primary function is to ensure that their due process rights are honored in any personnel investigations. I believe in that. However, we also have to be willing to look at those policies and refine or change them when it's appropriate. And the only way we can accomplish that if we're willing to sit down together and have those discussions. That's what's worked for me and my organization, and I'm certain that that would work here for the 5 organizations here at the Phoenix Police Department.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro.
Yes. So I don't think anybody in any labor organization, Phoenix Law Enforcement Association or PLE, feels differently. That we need to be held accountable, that we need to be able to have some guardrails of what we can do. I think, and everybody has sort of mentioned it already, communicating with them and bringing them in on the front end to make sure that we can work together collaboratively. I think the one trait that I bring to the table if selected as chief is I have decades of relationships with everybody in the union and in the organizations. Those relationships matter because when things go bad or things get heated, we can have an honest conversation to be able to get to the end point, which is make sure that the officer is treated fairly and that the community is being served correctly. And every labor union that I've spoken to, every conversation that I've had, and every interaction that I've had with them, they all understand that things are not going to work out perfectly for everybody, but it has to be fair. And if we can make it fair, implementing accountability strategies is not the problem. It's how is that going to happen, and will it be fair to the officers by following our current policies, the Police Officers' Bill of Rights, and our own personal integrity of doing the right thing.
Thank you. Chief Johnson?
Hey, can you just repeat the question one more time?
Of course. How will you navigate the role of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association and implementing accountability measures?
Sure. So I think really partnering with your labor associations is extremely important. Like the chiefs have said, I think everyone wants the same thing. Everyone wants to see that the officers are being treated fairly, but they're also being held accountable when needed. When you allow the labor unions to have a voice and you build those relationships with those labor unions, you can start to kind of collectively work together. You might not always see it eye to eye when you're talking with your labor partners because they're going to want certain things that their memberships want. But you also have to look at, from an executive standpoint, what's best for the department and what's best for the city. When looking at trying to change accountability measures and policies, you want to make sure that not only is the city protected, but the officers are protected as well. And you have to work together to try and figure out how do you close that gap on where you may think one thing needs to happen and the department thinks another thing needs to happen, but allowing them a voice and the opportunity to at least voice their opinions, I think is the best way to try and go about getting to that ultimate goal of what everyone wants. Thank you.
Thank you. The next series of questions are candidate-specific questions. You will have 90 seconds to respond. And the first question is for Chief Sullivan. Phoenix Law Enforcement Association and the Sergeants and Lieutenants Association conducted surveys that have been reported on stating you have not built the support of officers in the department. What are your plans to improve this if selected?
I have reviewed those surveys, and I was disappointed with the results. And I'm committed to building those relationships with the law enforcement associations because it's critically important to be able to do that, to drive morale, to drive, make sure that the officers know the support that they have. I know that change is hard. You know, those surveys were really based on a lot of the change that we've had to drive very, very quickly, partly because of the DOJ investigation, which has shifted at this point. I think we have an opportunity to slow down and make sure that the continuous improvement efforts that we are doing, we can communicate better to the men and women that are being affected directly by it. I think having that improved communication and being able to listen to the members is something that we are in a position to do today with the shift of where we are in regards to what the DOJ investigation is with the change of administrations and where we are today. I think we navigated that very well. That was what I was brought in to do. And I think we're on the next stage. And that next stage is about continuing to deliver that continuous improvement and making sure that we message that and communicate it with the men and women of the Phoenix Police Department.
Thank you, Chief. The next question is for Chief Wessing. Your name was mentioned in a news article regarding allegations of harassment. Can you please explain to the public the circumstances and outcome of this situation?
Yes, and I'm actually glad you brought up that question in this forum because at my core, I believe in being an open book and full transparency. Unfortunately, in 2018, there were comments from one of our members that was involved in an allegation of misconduct, and he referenced an investigation that I was involved in 2003 when I was a sergeant. One of our roles as a supervisors is to support a robust investigative process, which is what I did. Myself and numerous employees were interviewed during that process, and I was exonerated of any misconduct, of any type of workplace harassment. Unfortunately, when that article came out, I was not asked by either the media or at the time my organization to provide that type of context. My takeaway from that is I've worked extremely hard over the last 10 years to ensure that whatever area that I'm responsible for in management and leadership, that I create an environment where our employees, number one, know that workplace harassment is unacceptable, and if it's found to be true, that there will be accountability, but also a culture where those same employees feel comfortable in reporting that misconduct because they know that we'll actually take action if appropriate. That's exactly what I would bring to the Phoenix Police Department. There is no room for any type of workplace harassment in the workplace. And as a husband and a father of 3 adult daughters, I'm keenly aware of the challenges that women face in the workplace. And that's the context to that event. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. The next question is for Chief DeCastro. You are mentioned in the Ballard Spa report related to the criminal street gang charges that were filed against a group of protesters in October of 2020. Please explain your involvement in this incident.
Sure, thank you. During that time, we had arrested several hundred protesters. They went to the county attorney's office for charging. We had charged them for one thing. And in most complex cases, we have a case review where we meet with them to see what can happen to further the case. They came to us and they said that they wanted to amend the charges and they wanted to add the gang charges. They listed their reasoning for it. In a criminal case, we submit charges as to what we believe are criminal charges. The county attorney has the option to change those. They can amend it up or down. That's what they were doing. In that meeting, they had decided to do that. We had no say in what they were doing, and the meeting was over. I had assumed, and I do believe that my bosses, the 3 assistant chiefs that were there, told their chain of command of what was happening, and that was it. That was the totality of the meeting. Everybody dispersed. My understanding is that since then, in the investigation, it was found that nobody had done anything wrong from the Phoenix Police Department side. It was the Maricopa County's Attorney's Office's decision to charge those, and that attorney no longer works there as well. So that was my involvement in that.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Johnson, Oakland Police have been under a consent decree since 2003. Some in our community do not view that as a desirable training ground for the next Phoenix Police Chief. How do you respond to their concerns?
Sure, so I can tell you that being under oversight my entire career has taught me a lot of things. I've seen a lot of negatives, but I've also seen a lot of positives. If I'm selected as the next chief of police here in the city of Phoenix, the last thing I want to do is come from one dissent decree to another dissent decree. If the city of Phoenix decides that they do ultimately want to go into a dissent decree, I will take the skills, ability, and knowledge that I've learned about being under oversight and bring that here to the city of Phoenix, to the Phoenix Police Department, to ensure that we are out of a dissent decree as quickly as possible. There's definitely some things that unfortunately I can't talk about when it comes to the oversight because of our written policies and our negotiated settlement agreement, but I can tell you that being in a prolonged oversight can really damage a police department. It crushes officer morale. I was speaking to one of my colleagues and we talked about policies have become so stringent that when officers make mistakes, they are being sustained. An officer feels like they can't make a mistake without being sustained because of policy. This is not misconduct that is occurring at our police department. These are mistakes, minor mistakes that are being made. When there is misconduct that does occur, those officers are held accountable. But when an officer mistypes something on his computer, instead of typing 1, 2, 3, 4, they type 1, 2, 3, 5, and they get sustained because our policy says you shall write an accurate police report. Those are issues that can crush morale at a police department. So if I were brought here to the Phoenix Police Department, the last thing I'd want to do is have a sustained long oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Sullivan, Your number one strength when you were hired as interim police chief was your experience with DOJ investigations. Given the new direction of DOJ, what is your number one strength now?
I think that was a unique strength that not a whole lot of folks in the nation had when I came here to be able to navigate the Department of Justice investigation. And I think I leveraged that strength very, very well going forward. But I can tell you throughout my entire career, it's not about DOJ and working with DOJ. It's about leading police departments and fighting crime, making sure that we do this with accountability and we're focused on community engagement. And that's what we are going to do. That's what I did when I got here. What did we start talking about? We started talking about crime. We started talking about making sure that we had a crime plan in place, that we directed our folks what they needed to do to be able to drive down crime on the streets of Phoenix. And what have we done? We've done that over the last 2.5 years. We've seen crime reductions across the department despite the challenges we have with staffing. And we have incredible, dedicated men and women that go out every single day and put themselves at risk despite the staffing challenges that we have, and address crime. And I think that's a testament to the quality of the men and women that we have doing this job, and I'm proud to serve and lead them today.
Thank you. Chief Wessing, what do you view as your number one strength?
I would have to say sometimes it's a strength and also can be a challenge, is direct communication. I believe in being very open and honest with not only the people that are entrusted to me in our organization, but also with city leadership, city council members, and community members. I believe in being an open book. And so I think my most significant strength is my communication style and the ability to develop relationships. What I've learned over the last several years, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is that communication is not just about talking, it's about listening. And several times over the past several years, we've dealt with serious issues amongst the men and women in our Patrol Operations Bureau, and it was my ability to sit and be willing to take the time, even in graveyard shifts, late swing shifts, weekends, to sit with them and listen to the concerns, because oftentimes where we're at in upper management and senior leadership is the feeling and perception by the rank and file that we don't understand why they do what they do. And by sitting alongside with them and listening to what they're really dealing with today, because it's been 15 years since I really effectively worked as a patrol officer. And so what I did is I went and I put on a uniform and I worked alongside with them. That's the type of communication that I believe is my primary biggest strength.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro, what do you view as your number one strength?
I think my biggest strength is the one thing that you can't recreate. It's over 24 years of experience in the city of Phoenix. I have worked myself through the ranks up to this level. I know the people, I know the streets, I have partnerships, I have relationships, and I'm able to leverage all of those if selected as chief to be able to push this department forward into a new era. I think the goal that I had when I started as a supervisor, and it's the same thing that I tell everybody now, is what makes the difference. It's work hard, be safe, and have fun. If people go out there and they feel supported by their chief, then they tend to want to work harder, which is better for the community as well as the officers. My plan and my goal, if selected, is to be able to reinforce that feeling and those values into the officers, and that is my strength, is being able to go out there and they know they're getting somebody that they trust, that has credibility, has legitimacy, and has built a reputation over 24.5 years of being fair, having consistent leadership, and being able to acknowledge their good work and still produce high-level accountability and effective policing to the community. That is the strength that I believe I bring to this job.
Thank you. Chief Johnson, what is your number one strength?
Thank you. I think my number one strength is truly being able to build relationships. I think building a relationship is extremely important. Like I said earlier, being raised in a single-family household with all women, it taught me how to truly listen and to build relationships. You know, my mother passed 8 years ago unexpectedly, and I was total mama's boy. And I learned a lot from my sisters, how to treat, how to respect, how to listen, but also how to be humble. I know I'm not going to know all the answers to every question that may come up when you are in that position of leadership. So being able to give those individuals around you a voice and an ability to provide input, I also think is one of my biggest strengths. Allowing people to feel comfortable enough to tell you when you're not going down the right path, you're not making the right decision. You might need to change here instead of surrounding yourself with everyone who's going to agree with decisions you make, is one of my strongest attributes. Like I said, truly being humble and leading from the heart and allowing things, doing things of myself that I wouldn't ask others to do as well, I think is also one of my biggest strengths. I wouldn't ask someone to do something I wouldn't be willing to do myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for the final round of questions, you will have 30 seconds to respond. It's going to be a challenge. All right, so we asked the public to comment on the leadership traits they desire in the next police chief. Themes emerged around integrity, honesty, compassion, leadership, support of officers, and being a true public servant. How do you exemplify those traits in your job now? And we will begin with Chief Sullivan.
All right, speed round, here we go. Part of that is just the dedication to be able to do this job every single day and do it with integrity and make decisions based on the entire community. I am the police chief for this department, but I'm the police chief for this community. And that means all community members that are very engaged and community members that sometimes aren't heard. And I have to lead with that integrity and make sure that I'm the police chief for the entire community.
Thank you. Chief Wessing?
You have to model the behavior. The tone starts with the head of the organization. And you have to model that behavior in intentional ways every day. You have to work alongside with the men and women, whether professional staff or sworn, allow them to understand that you support them when they do the job right. That's not something that can be done in one meeting. It has to be intentional repeatedly. If you're modeling that behavior yourself, you also have to make sure that your executive team is in alignment with those same initiatives as well. They have to model that for the rest of the department.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro.
I'm sorry, Bianca, can you read that again, please?
Sure. We asked the public to comment on the leadership traits they desire in the next police chief. Themes emerged around integrity, honesty, compassion, leadership, support of officers, and being a true public servant. How do you exemplify those traits in your job now?
Similarly, I think being an example, going down, talking to the officers, talking to the detectives, asking them how they're doing, making sure that they are mentally doing okay. Making decisions that impact their lives, making decisions that impact their work, getting them the resources that they need. When they see that you care about them, they will work harder. I've done it my entire career. I've done it since being a sergeant, and that modeling creates future leaders that do the same.
Thank you. Chief Johnson.
Thank you. I truly believe just showing up for the community and showing up where the community is at. Going out into the community to show your support, not just once, not just twice, but continuously showing up to show the community that you are there for them, but also doing the same for your officers, being there to listen to your officers. I still have relationships now because I've been able to listen to my officers who are still in patrol, who are still sergeants, who are still lieutenants, being able to be that person that they feel they can trust and showing that to not only the community, but also our officers, I think is extremely important.
Thank you. How do you define success in policing, Chief Wessing?
Well, there's many ways that you can define it. Some would say simply it's in the reduction of crime, and I think that's critically important. One thing that I believe is in surveying your community and really learning about their perception of their public safety team. And so I define that both by our success with our reducing of both our violent and property crime rates, but also lowering the perception of crime and the fear of crime in our communities by conducting those surveys, and we get that feedback from the community that we serve directly.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro?
I learned this very quickly when I was on the Walking Beat squad in the public housing units. If the kids are playing outside, you're doing a great job of policing. That was the goal, and I think it's similar now. If you have people that are outside of their homes and they're engaging with one another, they're playing, they're having a good time, then you've done a great job of policing. That does not mean that we do not find out what we can do better, but to me, that is a sign of success of our policing.
Thank you. Chief Johnson?
Thank you. I think one of the signs of successful policing, like Chief Wessing said, is crime reduction, statistics showing crime is down. But also, as a leader of an organization, when you can go out in your community and your community can call your officers by names, they can say, Officer Leyva, he's an amazing officer. Officer Johnson, he's an amazing officer. Officer Johnson, she's an amazing officer. So really being able to go out to the community and know that they are feeling that they are trusting what you are doing in your leadership style, I think is showing success in the police department.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan?
Success is preventing and controlling crime, providing public safety to this community, and providing justice. And that's justice to victims, but that's justice to community as well. And if you do that, you will have community trust and you will build community trust, and all things will be in alignment. So it truly is about making sure that we provide justice to victims and to community.
Thank you. Next question, Chief DeCastro. What's the most difficult piece of feedback you've ever received?
I think the most difficult piece of information that I've ever received is that I didn't care. And I didn't think that I was doing that, but somebody had told me that I had forgotten to talk to somebody that I had said. So to me, that reinforced my value of we need to be able to talk to people. That was an important thing for that person, and that feedback really hit me hard, which makes me even more adamant about the fact of making sure that we talk to our officers more often.
Thank you. Chief Johnson?
I'm trying to think of difficult feedback that I've received. I think probably one of the most difficult feedback that I received was when I was a young patrol officer, learning how to write reports and investigations. And when my FTO said, kid, if you don't shape up, you're not going to make this. Hearing that feedback because I felt like I wasn't doing something right or wasn't being supported truly drove me to want to get better. Sometimes when you hear difficult feedback, it shifts your focus and it makes you really determined and drive to succeed to where you are now. And so I think hearing back then your FTO saying, kid, you ain't gonna make it if you don't shape up, that, that was some difficult feedback to hear. And I knew if I didn't, that I wouldn't be here today.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan?
The surveys that PLE and PPSLA just did, that was difficult feedback that I had to receive. I believe truly that I'm doing the right thing to drive change in this department, but the message certainly didn't get down to the women and men of this department. It's important that we listen, and those are opportunities for improvement. I talk about self-assessing, self-correcting as a department. I also talk about that personally in my personal leadership journey. So that was difficult feedback that I've received.
Thank you. Chief Wessing?
Yes, I learned a very hard lesson when I became a new assistant chief, and I made a critical decision about a policy and a tactic with a group of our detectives. And part of that policy also directed them to go back to wearing uniforms instead of their prescribed tactical gear that they typically wear. And I failed to take in consideration the impact of that decision. And it was a month later that I sat in front of those officers and they explained how it made them feel, and I quickly reversed that decision. And I think as good leaders, we should be willing to seek that input. And if we have to change direction, then we do just that.
We have time for one last question, and again, it's 30 seconds. In the absence of DOJ oversight, how will you ensure the patterns and practices identified in their investigation will be addressed and the culture will be changed? And this will be for Chief Johnson.
Sure. I think it starts with ensuring that you have policies and practices in place to, one, hold officers accountable, but two, to ensure that we are focused on the best policing practices out there. So by ensuring that our policies are the most modern, up-to-date policies, and ensuring that our officers are being held accountable to those policies, I think is the best way to move forward if we do not go into oversight.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan?
That's what we're doing here at the City of Phoenix. This is all about policy, training, and systems of accountability, and making sure, we all know that culture is a tough thing, but if we have good policies and we train our folks on those policies and make sure they have a good understanding of it, and then we have systems of accountability that give them the opportunity to get better and coach and train outside of discipline. That's how we're going to continue to move forward. That's what we're doing here in the City of Phoenix, and we have numerous initiatives that are ongoing.
Thank you. Chief Wessing?
I think has been said. I think first and foremost, we need to continue the work that's already underway. A lot of good work has already been undertaken, and we need to ensure that that work continues. As Chief Sullivan just said, in addition to that policy work, we have to ensure that our officers are trained properly so that they're able to be successful as they deal with the challenging cases that they deal with every day. And a system of accountability is meaningless if we actually don't follow it. And that has to start from the top down, not necessarily from the bottom up.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro?
Similarly, I think we continue on the path that we're on right now. We are making several changes into our systems of accountability to make sure that we are held accountable and that we don't fall into any form of pattern or practice. But I think it goes into training, and we continue doing what we do now, which is hold our people accountable. We train our supervisors as well as our officers that is going to be something that we are going to focus on, and we continue to hold people accountable.
Thank you. All right, time for closing remarks. So as part of your closing remarks, please describe what you hope your legacy as Chief of Police will be if selected. And we will begin with Chief Sullivan. Oh, and you do have 2 minutes, I should say, Chief. Not 30 seconds.
Okay, I can slow down.
That would be a
bit.
challenge.
So I believe we're at a pivotal moment as the next police chief is being selected, and we must be ready to meet those challenges with experience, integrity, and a clear vision for the future. I think it's important that we make sure that we acknowledge every voice in this community as we move forward. And I believe in my time here, I've sought those voices out as we've talked about the changes that need to be made. I want my legacy to be, as we move forward, as a chief that has been the chief for this entire city, to make sure that I lead the women and men that do this incredibly difficult work every single day, and make sure that they have the tools that they need to be able to go out and do it. But I also need to be the chief and work very closely with our city manager's office, work very closely with our elected officials who are the representatives of the residents of this city. And then listen to the feedback that we get from the residents. And then also remember the voices, those voices that aren't heard. The people that don't have a strong voice because of whatever reason, whatever societal reason, they are not given the opportunity to be able to do that, and make sure that we take them into account as we go forward. I think I have, and this city deserves a leader who understands this city, the complexities of modern policing, and I believe that I know this department, and I'm the person to lead this department into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Wessing?
Legacy, that's a tough question because I don't think in terms of personal legacy, but really the legacy of the organization and the impact that it can have on the community that we serve. Let me just say, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have a community that we collectively have taken an oath to serve. I believe I would like my legacy to be a chief that ensures that we continue to have a professional, relentless crime-fighting model, regardless of the political talk of the day. A chief who believes in policing with pride. It means we treat people with dignity and respect, regardless of the situation or the rank that you attain. I want to be a chief that is known for engaging with the community. What does that really mean? I believe it goes all the way down to that first line employee, whether it's a 911 call that comes in or the officer that's responding to a call. Every time we make contact with someone in our community, it's an opportunity to build a relationship. We do a really good job at measuring effectiveness with arrests, with reports, with tickets. We need to measure how much time our officers and our employees are spending in the communities and evaluate them. That it has to come from the top down. I want to be known as a chief who is able to bring the community together, not just the community at large, but the police department and all of its members. I'd like to be a chief that is firm, fair, and consistent, and is willing to put in the work. Willing to put in the work that this job and this position requires. I would not be here if I was not willing to put in the work. I understand that I have a big hurdle to overcome, the fact that I am not from the city of Phoenix. I've worked in Mesa for my entire career, and it's going to take time to get to understand not only the organization, the operations and the people and the culture, but also all the individual communities within this great city of Phoenix. And I believe I'm the person to do exactly that, to bring the community together. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief DeCastro, your closing remarks.
Thank you. Personally, I want my legacy to be, I am the person that cared about his people. He cared about the department. He cared about making sure that everybody had what they needed, and they felt supported, and they felt that they wanted to come and do this job. Departmentally, I want to make sure that the legacy is we have enough bodies that we can patrol every sector of the city openly, fairly, without prejudice, and not have anybody fear the police. If I can get the officers to go out there and work correctly and without fear, I think that lends itself to the community becoming better overall. I want my legacy to be the person that anybody can call at any time to find out what's happening. I do that now. People can call me from any community group, from any member, even officers can call me. I get calls from officers all the time. I want that to be the person that has built this department that can move forward. I want to be an innovator. I want to be able to change some of the processes that we have. I want to change some of the technology that we have and move forward and move this department into a much better and more modern era of policing. I want to make sure that every community feels safe. That's the one thing that seems to be the big concern. I want to make sure that everybody feels safe. I want to make sure that everybody feels heard, and that everything that we do is legitimate, as well as holding everybody accountable to exactly what they're supposed to be doing, which is being a good person, being a good officer, and treating the community fairly.
Thank you. Chief Johnson.
Thank you. As Chief Blessing said, legacy is a big word. What I truly believe I'd want my legacy to be is a chief who improved transparency, who improved accountability, who improved community trust, a chief who gave not only his officers a voice, but gave the public a voice, a chief who really pushed the Phoenix Police Department to be the best versions of themselves, to ensure that we treated our community fairly, treated them with respect. Like the old adage says, treat those as you want to be treated. That's the type of legacy I'd like to leave, is someone who truly cared about their staff, their personnel, but also truly cared about the community, and someone who was able to close that divide when you look at the fracture that there has been over decades of police officers and police departments within their communities. So my true legacy would be someone who was actually able to close that divide, treat people fairly, and give everyone a voice, and make sure everyone felt respected and felt valued.
Thank you. And this concludes our forum. The new chief is expected to be announced in April. On behalf of the City of Phoenix, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And to our finalists, thank you for your interest in this opportunity with our city. Have a good night.
here as we celebrate the activation of our 100th Hawk crossing signal. For those of you who don't know what a HAWK is, it stands for High Intensity Activated Crosswalk, and it's a signal that helps pedestrians cross busy roads safely. Phoenix has been installing HAWK signals since 2009 after they were approved by the Federal Highway Administration. We are honored today to be joined by Mayor Kate Gallego, Vice Mayor Deborah Stark, Councilwoman Laura Pastor from District 4, and Councilwoman Keisha Hodge Washington from District 8. All of them have been champions for the city's hard work to improve safety on Phoenix's roadways. Please join me now in welcoming Mayor Gallego to say a few remarks.
Good morning, I'm Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego, and I'm excited to be with you here today to celebrate the city's 100th Hawk, helping pedestrians, cyclists, and those who roll have a safer city. Thank you to Brandy for Brandy takes on so many of our sticky challenges at the city, and we appreciate your leadership. A huge congratulations to our Streets Department. Our Streets Department is working so hard to make sure we have a safer city. I am excited to be here with 3 councilwomen who really champion a safer city. Hawks are very important because they allow people to cross safely when we have big distances between signalized intersections. We are in the McDowell Mile, the Miracle Mile on McDowell. Miracle Mile is a really exciting area in our city where we're seeing a lot of investment. We want to make sure our residents have a chance to cross our streets safely in this area. We have incredible destinations on both sides, whether it be great healthcare with Banner or our wonderful city parks, and we want to connect them. We have just welcomed a lot of new residents who will be able to use this Hawk to cross safely. It's a real commitment at the city to be a safer city for our pedestrians. We are one of the 3 nationwide leaders in installing Hawks, and we are very proud of it. Just 2 years ago, I joined many of you at the Indian School Road crosswalk at 83rd Avenue for the activation of our 75th Hawk. And 5 years ago, I was standing at the corner of 20th Street and Grand Canal to activate the 50th Hawk. So if the math is correct, we have doubled the number of pedestrian activated crossings in Phoenix in just 5 short years. Huh. Yeah. It makes sense that Phoenix and other cities across the state use the Hawk to allow pedestrians to cross the road safely. The Hawk was created by a former traffic engineer at the city of Tucson, Richard Nassi. So the Hawk is an Arizona original. Hawks are designed in the state of Arizona, and they are keeping our residents safer. Everything we do related to roadway safety is intentional, from our Office of Pedestrian Safety to our Roadway Safety Action Plan to a City Council resolution embedding the Vision Zero strategy into our Roadway Safety Action Plan. There was a time when we didn't support Vision Zero at the City of Phoenix, but this council does. The voters of Phoenix elected leaders who care very much